You really thought we'd let you forget what a pathetic loser you were, Marcus? What happens when the kid everyone mocked for wearing the same 3 shirts to college receives an invitation to a reunion specifically designed to humiliate him? Marcus Thompson was about to walk into a trap 5 years in the making, a carefully orchestrated evening where his former classmates planned to crown him biggest failure in front of everyone. They'd prepared slideshows, awards, and even a live stream to broadcast his humiliation to thousands. But here's what they didn't know: while they were inheriting trust funds and flaunting their parents' success, Marcus was quietly building something that would flip their entire world upside down. This is the story of how one night of planned cruelty became the most expensive mistake these privileged bullies ever made. Dear viewer, I humbly request you to watch or listen till the end and rate this story out of 10. Your rating will help me to give you better stories in next videos. If you are watching my story for the first time, subscribe this channel and press the bell icon now not to miss the notifications of my daily published new stories. Thank you, and let's dive into the full story. Marcus Thompson stood in the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office, watching the Seattle skyline paint itself in sunset gold. The city sprawled below him from the 47th floor of the NextGen Technologies building, his building, though nobody from his past would ever guess that. His reflection caught in the glass, a confident 27-year-old man in a simple black t-shirt and jeans, a far cry from the scared kid who'd once cleaned these very windows for minimum wage during college. You're not seriously considering going to this thing, are you? Victoria Chen's voice cut through his thoughts as she entered his office, waving a cream-colored invitation like a warning flag. Marcus turned from the window, his expression unreadable. Why not? They went through all the trouble of finding my old campus mailbox address. Even paid for overnight delivery to make sure I got it in time. Victoria, his business partner and the only person from college who'd ever shown him genuine kindness, dropped into one of the modern leather chairs across from his minimalist desk. Marcus, I've seen the group chat. This isn't just a reunion, it's an ambush. Bradley Whitmore has been planning this for months. Bradley Whitmore 3, Marcus corrected with a slight smile, remembering how Bradley always insisted on using his full name, as if the Roman numeral somehow validated his existence. What's Golden Boy up to these days? Living off daddy's money and pretending his failing hedge fund is the next Goldman Sachs. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolling through screenshots she'd been sent by a sympathetic classmate. Look at this, they've created a whole Facebook event called Eastwood University Class of 2019 Reunion, celebrating success. But in the private group, they're calling it something else. Marcus took the phone, his jaw tightening as he read, Operation Loser Takedown, finally giving Marcus Thompson the award he deserves. The messages below were worse. Ashley Pemberton, Bradley's girlfriend since sophomore year, had written, "Remember when he wore the same 3 shirts every week? Face with tears of joy, can't wait to see if he still has them." Connor Sterling added, "My dad's company wouldn't even hire him as a janitor. Some people just aren't meant to rise above their station." Tyler Hastings, "I've got all the old videos from when we put his books in the fountain. Premium content for the slideshow." Marcus handed the phone back, his expression calm despite the familiar sting of those memories. They put effort into this. Would be rude not to show up. Marcus, you're worth more than everyone in that chat combined. You could buy Bradley's father's company with your quarterly dividends. Why subject yourself to their garbage? A knock interrupted them. James Thompson entered, carrying a worn lunchbox, the same one he'd carried for 30 years as a janitor at Eastwood University. Marcus's father still insisted on bringing him lunch once a week, despite Marcus's protests that he could afford any restaurant in the city. "There's my son, working late again," James said warmly, setting the lunch on Marcus's desk. He noticed the invitation. "What's this? Finally gonna use that fancy education for some socializing?" Marcus and Victoria exchanged glances. His father didn't know about the bullying, the humiliation, the nights Marcus had called home crying but told his parents everything was fine. And he certainly didn't know about Marcus's current net worth. Marcus had been careful to hide the true extent of his success, knowing his father would refuse the help he desperately needed if he knew how much his son was really worth. "Just a reunion, Pops. 5 years since graduation." James's face lit up. "That's wonderful. You should go, son. Network with those successful kids. Maybe one of them can help you get a better job then. He gestured vaguely at the office, clearly thinking his son was just another mid-level employee in someone else's company. Maybe you're right, Marcus said softly. Maybe it's time they all saw what became of me. Victoria waited until James left before speaking. If you're really doing this, at least let me come with you. You shouldn't face those vultures alone. No, Marcus shook his head. They need to think I'm exactly who they expect me to be. The same pathetic Marcus Thompson who worked 3 jobs to afford textbooks while they complained about their spring break destinations being too pedestrian. What's your plan? Marcus picked up the invitation again, reading the gold embossed letters. The Whitmore Grand Hotel, of course. Bradley's family owned it. Remember when Professor Blackwell gave me a C- on my business proposal? The one about democratizing enterprise software through cloud computing? The one that became the foundation for NextGen? Yeah, I remember. He said it was unrealistic and showed a fundamental misunderstanding of market dynamics. That proposal is now worth $100 million, Marcus said quietly. But they don't know that. As far as they're concerned, I'm still the charity case who only got into Eastwood because of the diversity quota, Bradley's words, not mine. Victoria stood to leave, pausing at the door. You know, there's something poetic about all this. While they were learning to manage daddy's money, you were building an empire. While they were posting about their trust fund vacations, you were coding 18 hours a day in that crappy apartment. They invited Marcus Thompson, the class loser, Marcus said, turning back to the window. So that's exactly who I'll give them. Right up until the moment I don't. As Victoria left, Marcus pulled out his personal phone, not the latest model, but an older one that fit the image. He RSVP'd yes to the reunion, then opened his laptop to check NextGen's latest numbers. The acquisition of Sterling Industries had closed that morning. Connor's father's company was now his. The irony wasn't lost on him. His father's words echoed, network with those successful kids. If only James knew that his son could buy and sell every one of those successful kids without blinking. But that revelation would come later. For now, Marcus had a character to play, a trap to walk into, and a lesson to teach about judging books by their worn covers. The invitation sat on his desk, its gold letters catching the last rays of sunlight. 5 years ago, they'd tried to break him. In 3 days, they'd learned that pressure doesn't destroy everyone, sometimes it creates diamonds. And diamonds, Marcus had learned, cut through everything. Bradley Whitmore III stood at the head of the polished mahogany table in his penthouse apartment, though his was a generous term since his father still paid the rent. The downtown view was impressive, 30 floors up with a panoramic spread of the city lights, the kind of view that screamed success to anyone who didn't look too closely at the past due notices he'd hidden in his desk drawer. Alright, everyone, Operation Loser Takedown is officially in motion, Bradley announced, his Harvard Business School diploma prominently displayed on the wall behind him, the one useful thing his trust fund had purchased before his father cut his allowance in half. Marcus Thompson RSVP'd yes this morning. Ashley Pemberton squealed with delight, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against her champagne glass. Oh my God, he actually fell for it. I can't believe he's that stupid. She turned to her best friend Madison Blake, who was already filming everything for her Instagram stories, though she'd upload them after the reunion for maximum impact. Of course he fell for it, Connor Sterling lounged in his chair, designer shoes propped up on the table. Guys like Marcus are so desperate for acceptance, they'll walk into anything. Remember how he used to hang around after our study groups, hoping we'd invite him to parties? Tyler Hastings emerged from Bradley's kitchen with a bottle of scotch that cost more than most people's rent. This is going to be even better than the fountain incident. Remember his face when we threw his books in? Priceless. And this time, Madison can livestream the whole thing. Already planning it, Madison said, adjusting her ring light. My followers are going to die. I'm thinking we go viral with #ClassReunionKarma or maybe #LoserGetsLearned. Bradley pulled up a PowerPoint on his laptop, projecting it onto his wall-mounted screen. I've been working on this for 3 months. Check it out, the Marcus Thompson Memorial Slideshow, a tribute to failure. The first slide showed Marcus from freshman year, wearing an ill-fitting shirt and carrying a stack of library books. Someone had photoshopped a dunce cap onto his head. The second showed him working his campus janitor job, mopping the very hallways they'd walked through. The third was a video Tyler's personal contribution of Marcus fishing his soaked textbooks out of the fountain while they laughed in the background. I've got 23 slides, Bradley continued, clicking through more humiliating moments. But the finale is the best part. We're going to present him with an actual award. I had it engraved in everything. He pulled out a gaudy trophy with a plaque reading, "Most likely to peak at minimum wage." Ashley clapped her hands. Bradley, you're so bad. But wait, what if he doesn't show? What if he figures out what we're planning? He won't, Bradley's confidence was absolute. I had my dad's secretary call him last week, pretending to be from the Alumni Association. She said there would be networking opportunities with potential investors. He probably thinks he's going to pitch whatever sad little business idea he's been working on. Connor laughed, refilling his glass. What's he even doing now? Last I heard from LinkedIn, he was working at some no-name tech startup. Who cares? Tyler interjected. Probably fetching coffee for real entrepreneurs. You know what's funny? My doorman makes more than whatever Marcus is making, guaranteed. Madison looked up from her phone. Should we invite more people? Make sure we have a good audience? Already done, Ashley said. I invited everyone from our economics class, including Professor Blackwell. He confirmed he's coming. Remember how he used to destroy Marcus's presentations? This is going to be so perfect. Bradley walked to his window, looking out at the city below. The view usually made him feel powerful, successful, like the king his father always told him he was destined to be. Lately, though, it just reminded him of how much he was failing. His hedge fund, Whitmore Capital, was hemorrhaging money. He'd lost 3 major clients this month alone. His father had already bailed him out twice and warned there wouldn't be a third time. But none of them knew that. As far as his friends were concerned, he was still Bradley Whitmore III, heir to the Whitmore hotel fortune, successful hedge fund manager, and the same golden boy who'd ruled Eastwood University. You know what the best part is? Bradley turned back to his friends, his smile sharp. Marcus probably spent money he doesn't have on a suit for this. Probably thinks he's going to impress us, show us how far he's come. Oh my God, yes. Ashley giggled. Remember when he showed up to the senior gala in that rental tux that was 2 sizes too big? He looked like a kid playing dress up. I still have that photo, Madison scrolled through her phone. Should I add it to the slideshow? Absolutely, Bradley took the phone, examining the image. Marcus stood alone at the gala, trying to look confident while everyone else clustered in their exclusive groups, pointedly ignoring him. This is perfect for the still can't dress himself segment. Connor stood, stretching. You know, sometimes I almost feel bad for the guy. Almost. Then I remember how he had the nerve to ask Victoria Chen out junior year. Like he ever had a chance with someone in our league. Speaking of Victoria, Ashley's tone turned catty. I heard she's actually doing well. Started some tech company or something. Too bad she wasted her potential hanging around with losers like Marcus. Tyler poured another round of drinks. Should we invite her? Might be fun to see her reaction to the slideshow. No, Bradley said firmly. She'd probably warn him or try to defend him. We don't need that energy. This is about giving Marcus exactly what he deserves, a reminder of his place in the world. Madison raised her glass. A toast. To Bradley, for organizing the most savage reunion in Eastwood history. They all raised their glasses, crystal clicking against crystal in Bradley's penthouse, a penthouse that would be repossessed in 2 months if he couldn't turn his fund around. But that was his secret to keep. To Operation Loser Takedown, Bradley toasted. And to Marcus Thompson, for being stupid enough to show up for his own execution. As they drank, Connor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning. That's weird. My dad just texted asking if I knew someone named Marcus Thompson. Says the name came up in some big acquisition news. Probably another Marcus Thompson, Bradley dismissed. Our Marcus couldn't acquire a bus pass without help. They all laughed, the sound echoing through the penthouse. In 3 days, they'd have their fun. They'd remind Marcus Thompson exactly who he was, who they were, and why some people were simply born to be better than others. Madison started filming Bradley for her stories. Tell my followers what you have planned. Bradley grinned at the camera, his perfect teeth gleaming. Let's just say someone's about to learn that money can't buy class, but class can definitely buy entertainment. As the night wore on and the drinks flowed, they refined their plan, each person assigned a role in the humiliation. They were so busy congratulating themselves on their cleverness, none of them noticed the irony of spending so much time and energy on someone they claimed was beneath their notice. And none of them could have imagined that while they plotted in Bradley's rented penthouse, their intended victim was finalizing the purchase of the very building they were sitting in. Marcus Thompson sat in his rented Toyota Camry in the parking lot of the Whitmore Grand Hotel, watching through the windshield as valets rushed to attend to the parade of luxury vehicles arriving for the reunion. He'd specifically chosen the beige Camry, the most forgettable car on the lot, and parked it himself in the back corner, away from the Bentleys and Teslas that his former classmates were stepping out of. He checked his reflection in the rearview mirror one last time. He'd chosen his outfit carefully, a department store suit that fit adequately but not perfectly, a tie that was slightly out of style, and shoes that were clean but clearly not designer. He'd even swapped his platinum watch for a simple Timex. Every detail crafted to meet their expectations. Showtime, he muttered, grabbing the small gift bag he'd brought, a bottle of mid-shelf wine, the kind someone stretching their budget might bring to seem thoughtful. The hotel lobby was exactly as he remembered from the few times he'd cleaned it during his work-study job. Marble floors that reflected the crystal chandeliers, gold accented everything, and that specific smell of old money and fresh flowers that seemed to permeate every Whitmore property. The reunion was in the grand ballroom on the 3rd floor, the same room where he'd been humiliated at senior gala. Marcus? Marcus Thompson? He turned to find Ashley Pemberton and Madison Blake by the elevator, their faces lighting up with the specific kind of delight that meant nothing good. Ashley looked like she'd been dipped in designer labels, from her red-bottom shoes to her handbag that probably cost more than most people's cars. Madison already had her phone out, subtly filming. Ladies, Marcus said simply, offering a small smile. Oh my God, you actually came. Ashley's voice dripped with false sweetness. We were taking bets on whether you'd show. I thought for sure you'd be too busy. Busy with what? Madison chimed in, her phone still recording. Still doing that? What was it? Computer stuff? Something like that, Marcus replied mildly, pressing the elevator button. Ashley gave him an obvious once-over, her lips curling slightly. That's a nice suit. J.C. Penney? No judgment. It's actually really brave of you to come knowing everyone else would be, more established. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped in. Marcus noticed how they positioned themselves on either side of him, like predators flanking prey. Madison's camera never stopped rolling. So, Marcus, as Madison said, are you still living in Seattle? Or did you have to move back in with your parents? The economy's been so hard on people in your situation. I have a place in the city, Marcus answered truthfully, though he didn't mention it was a penthouse that made Bradley's look like a starter apartment. The elevator dinged at the 3rd floor, and the doors opened to reveal the cocktail hour already in full swing. Marcus stepped out and immediately felt the familiar weight of eyes turning his way, conversations pausing mid-sentence, and then the whispers starting. Is that Marcus Thompson? He actually showed up? This is going to be good. Bradley Whitmore III materialized from the crowd like a shark sensing blood in the water. He looked exactly the same, blonde hair slicked back, perfect smile, handshake that squeezed just a little too hard to be friendly. Marcus Thompson. Bradley's voice boomed across the room, ensuring everyone noticed. The man of the hour. We were just talking about you. Connor Sterling appeared at Bradley's shoulder, already 3 drinks in judging by his slight sway. Marcus. Buddy. Still rocking the same style, I see. Some things never change, right? Tyler Hastings completed the trio, holding up his phone. Yo, Marcus. Gotta get a pic for the memories. He threw his arm around Marcus's shoulders, pulling him into an awkward photo while making bunny ears behind his head. Marcus endured it all with quiet dignity, playing his part perfectly. He accepted the glass of what was clearly the cheapest champagne they'd stocked, smiled at their barbed comments, and didn't react when Tyler accidentally stepped on his foot. So Marcus, Bradley said loudly enough for the growing audience to hear, tell everyone what you've been up to. Still doing that? What was it? IT support? I work in tech, Marcus said simply. Tech. Connor laughed. That's adorable. Everyone works in tech these days. My doorman's son works in tech. He fixes phones at the mall. The group laughed, and Marcus noticed how more people had drifted over, forming a circle around them. Professor Blackwell was there, his expression as dismissive as Marcus remembered. Mrs. Whitmore stood nearby, whispering something to another parent while looking at Marcus like he was something she'd scrape off her shoe. Marcus was always so ambitious, Ashley said, linking her arm through Bradley's. Remember that business proposal you presented senior year? What was it? Something about clouds? Cloud computing infrastructure, Marcus corrected quietly. Professor Blackwell snorted. Ah yes, I remember that disaster. C-, wasn't it? You clearly didn't understand the fundamental economics of enterprise software. I tried to explain that companies like Microsoft and Amazon had already cornered that market, but you were so stubborn. Some people just don't know their limitations, Bradley added, clapping Marcus on the shoulder hard enough to make him step forward. But hey, not everyone can be entrepreneurs, right? The world needs worker bees too. Madison had switched to live streaming now, narrating to her followers. Guys, you're watching the most awkward reunion ever. This poor guy actually thought he belonged here. Tyler pulled out a flask, offering it to everyone except Marcus. Remember when Marcus tried to join our study group? And he brought his own sandwich because he couldn't afford to order food at the coffee shop? I remember, Connor said. He had the same 3 shirts on rotation. We used to bet on which one he'd wear. Blue Monday, White Wednesday, Gray Friday, Ashley recited, and they all burst out laughing. Marcus stood in the center of their circle, absorbing their mockery like he had years ago. But something was different now. Back then, their words had cut deep, made him question his worth, his right to be there. Now, he watched them with an almost anthropological interest. They were performing, he realized. They needed this, needed him to be less than them to feel like more themselves. Attention everyone! Bradley called out, raising his glass. Dinner's about to start in the main ballroom. But first, let's give a warm welcome to all our successful alumni. We've got Connor Sterling, whose father just expanded Sterling Industries internationally. Connor puffed up with borrowed pride, not knowing his father's company had been hemorrhaging money until Marcus bought it yesterday. Madison Blake, our very own influencer with almost 50,000 followers. Madison waved to imaginary fans, unaware that Marcus's marketing team had analyzed her engagement rates and found them artificially inflated with bot followers. And of course, yours truly, running Whitmore Capital, managing over $10 million in assets. Bradley's chest swelled, though Marcus knew from his due diligence on the building purchase that Bradley was 3 months behind on his office rent. And let's not forget, Bradley continued, his smile turning predatory, Marcus Thompson, who's here to network. The room erupted in laughter. Someone actually applauded. Marcus stood there, hands in his pockets, looking exactly like the nobody they all expected him to be. Shall we head to dinner? Bradley suggested, gesturing toward the ballroom. We have assigned seating, and Marcus, don't worry, we saved you a very special seat. As the crowd moved toward the ballroom, Marcus felt his phone vibrate. A text from Victoria: Sterling Industries acquisition just hit the news. You sure you don't want me there? He typed back, not yet. Let them have their fun. Walking into the ballroom, Marcus saw the seating arrangements. His nameplate was at a table in the back corner, positioned so he'd have to walk past everyone else to get there. The loser table, as they'd probably planned it. He made his way there, feeling every eye track his movement, hearing every whispered comment. What they didn't know was that with each insult, each laugh, each moment of planned humiliation, they were writing checks their egos couldn't cash. Because Marcus Thompson wasn't the same scared kid from college anymore. He was a patient man who'd learned that the best revenge wasn't served cold, it was served at exactly the right temperature, at exactly the right moment, when it would burn the most. The grand ballroom had been transformed into what Bradley clearly thought was the height of elegance. Gold and black balloons clustered at each table, a stage set up at the front with a podium and large screen, and a banner reading Eastwood University Class of 2019, 5 years of success. Marcus noticed the irony: most of them hadn't been successful at anything except spending their parents' money. Marcus found his seat at table 12, in the back corner as expected. His table mates were telling: the foreign exchange student who'd barely spoken English, the girl who'd dropped out junior year, and 3 empty chairs. The message was clear: this was the reject table. Ladies and gentlemen. Bradley's voice boomed through the microphone as he took the stage. Welcome to our 5-year reunion. I'm your host for tonight's festivities, and boy, do we have some surprises planned. The room applauded. Marcus noticed the catering staff along the walls, some of them looked familiar. One caught his eye and quickly looked away. It was Jerome, who'd been in his statistics class before having to drop out for financial reasons. Now he was serving champagne to the people who'd made fun of him for being on scholarship. Before we begin, Bradley continued, I want to introduce some special guests. First, please welcome our beloved Professor Harold Blackwell. Professor Blackwell stood from the head table, waving regally. He was seated with the Whitmores and other important parents, a placement that spoke volumes about the evening's hierarchy. Professor Blackwell taught us that success isn't just about working hard, Bradley said, it's about working smart and knowing your place in the market. Isn't that right, Professor? Absolutely, Blackwell took the microphone. I always told my students that ambition without capability is just delusion. Some of you understood that lesson better than others. His eyes found Marcus in the back. I see Mr. Thompson made it. Still chasing those cloud computing dreams, Marcus? A ripple of laughter went through the room. Marcus simply raised his water glass in acknowledgement. And now, Bradley resumed control, let's welcome the woman who taught us all about class and sophistication, my mother, Eleanor Whitmore. Mrs. Whitmore stood, her diamonds catching the light like small explosions. Thank you, darling. It's wonderful to see so many successful young people here tonight. Success, as I always say, is about breeding as much as it is about effort. You can't make a thoroughbred from a mule, no matter how hard it tries. More laughter. Marcus noticed Jerome's jaw tighten as he refilled water glasses. The first course arrived, some sort of deconstructed salad that looked like it had been arranged by someone with too much time and too little sense. Marcus ate quietly while Bradley continued his opening monologue, dropping hints about the special presentation to come. Now, before we get to the main event, Bradley said, let's go around the room and hear some success stories. Connor, why don't you start? Connor stood, clearly drunk now. Well, as many of you know, I've been working at my father's company, Sterling Industries. We just closed a huge deal, can't say much about it yet, but let's just say the Sterling name is about to go global. Marcus almost choked on his water. The huge deal was Marcus acquiring the company for 30% below asking price because it was about to default on its loans. Wonderful! Bradley exclaimed. Madison, you're next. Madison practically bounced to the microphone. Hi everyone. So, as you know, I'm a full-time influencer now. 50,000 followers and counting. I actually just landed a brand deal with. She paused dramatically, Fit T Extreme. Marcus knew that company. It was being investigated by the FTC for false advertising. His legal team had flagged it as a do not touch brand for potential partnerships. The success stories continued, each more inflated than the last. Ashley talked about her fashion consultancy, which seemed to consist of spending Bradley's money on clothes. Tyler bragged about his cryptocurrency investments, unaware that the coin he'd gone all in on was about to crash. And now, Bradley's voice took on a special tone. I want to share something special with you all. As you know, I've been running Whitmore Capital for 2 years now. I'm proud to announce we're about to close our first 8-figure deal. The room erupted in applause. Marcus knew Bradley was lying. He'd seen the public filings. Whitmore Capital had lost money every quarter since its inception. But enough about us successful folks. Bradley's smile turned predatory. This reunion is about everyone. Even those who, shall we say, haven't quite found their path yet? Marcus Thompson, would you mind coming up here? The room went quiet. All eyes turned to the back corner. Marcus set down his fork, wiped his mouth with his napkin, and stood. The walk to the stage felt like a million miles, with whispers following each step. Everyone, Marcus Thompson. Bradley announced as Marcus climbed the stairs to the stage. Marcus was one of our most persistent classmates. Always trying so hard, always reaching for things just out of his grasp. Professor Blackwell called out from his table, Mr. Thompson was certainly persistent. I must have explained market dynamics to him a dozen times, but he insisted his little cloud computing idea would work. This was after Amazon had already dominated the space, mind you. Tell us, Marcus. Bradley put his arm around Marcus's shoulders, steering him to center stage. What are you up to these days? Still in tech? He made air quotes around the word. Marcus took the microphone, looking out at the sea of expectant faces. They wanted him to stammer, to make excuses, to confirm their assumptions. I work for a software company in Seattle, he said simply. A software company? Bradley exclaimed with false enthusiasm. How exciting! What do you do there? Customer support? Data entry? I work with enterprise clients. Enterprise clients. Bradley was practically gleeful. That sounds impressive. Is that what they're calling tech support these days? The room laughed. Ashley called out, do you still have those 3 shirts, Marcus? Or did you upgrade to 4? Now, Bradley said with mock seriousness, let's not be mean. Marcus is trying his best. That's what's important, right? Not everyone can be leaders. Some people are meant to be followers. There's no shame in that. Mrs. Whitmore's voice carried from her table, it's important for young people to understand their limitations. Not everyone is meant for greatness. Exactly. Bradley agreed. Which brings me to tonight's special presentation. You see, we wanted to celebrate everyone tonight, the successes and the learning experiences. Marcus, why don't you stay up here for this? The lights dimmed, and the screen behind them lit up. The title slide read, The Marcus Thompson Story, A Lesson in Perseverance Against Reality. Marcus stood on that stage, microphone in hand, watching as they prepared to humiliate him in front of everyone. He thought about revealing himself right then, about telling them exactly who he was and what he'd built. But no patience. Let them dig their hole deeper. Let them show everyone exactly who they were. Before we begin, Bradley said, I want everyone to know that this presentation is made with love. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is help someone understand where they truly belong. Right, Marcus? Marcus looked at Bradley, then at the audience, all leaning forward in anticipation of his humiliation. Jerome and the other servers had stopped working, watching from the edges of the room. Professor Blackwell had his phone out, probably ready to record. Madison was already streaming. Right, Marcus said quietly into the microphone. Please, show everyone exactly what you think of me. Bradley's grin widened, mistaking Marcus's calm for defeat. That's the spirit. Acceptance is the first step to growth. As the first slide appeared, that photoshopped image of Marcus in a dunce cap, Marcus stood perfectly still, playing his part. The room erupted in laughter. But Marcus wasn't looking at the screen. He was watching the faces in the crowd, memorizing every laugh, every pointed finger, every cruel comment. Because in about 30 minutes, every single one of them would realize they just participated in their own downfall. And unlike them, Marcus wouldn't need a slideshow to make his point. The presentation continued, each slide more cruel than the last. And Marcus stood there, patient as stone, waiting for his moment. The lights in the grand ballroom dimmed to spotlight the massive screen behind Bradley and Marcus. The opening slide lingered, Marcus with the photoshopped dunce cap, while the room's laughter crescendoed. Bradley held up his hand for silence, savoring his role as master of ceremonies. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? Bradley clicked to the next slide. It showed Marcus from freshman orientation, standing alone while groups of students clustered around him, clearly excluding him from their circles. Day 1 at Eastwood. Notice how Marcus is standing by himself? That's because he showed up to orientation in a shirt with a visible stain. First impressions matter, folks. Ashley's voice rang out from her table. Oh my God, I remember that. It was mustard or something. It was not a good look, Madison added, her phone capturing every moment. My live stream is going crazy right now. 8,000 viewers and climbing. The next slide was a video. Tyler's voice could be heard behind the camera as it showed Marcus in the library, surrounded by textbooks. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. Look at this tryhard, Tyler's recorded voice mocked. While we were at the Sigma party, Thompson here is pretending he's gonna be the next Bill Gates. The funny thing is, Connor called out, all that studying and he still got C's in Blackwell's class. Professor Blackwell stood up, adjusting his jacket. If I may add some context here, Mr. Thompson refused to accept the realities of the business world. He kept insisting that disruption was possible in established markets. I tried to explain that innovation requires capital, connections, and breeding, things that can't be learned from textbooks. Exactly. Bradley moved to the next slide. Speaking of trying too hard. The screen showed Marcus in his janitor uniform, mopping the very ballroom they were standing in. Several people gasped, they hadn't known about his work-study job. That's right, Bradley announced. While we were attending galas in this room, Marcus was cleaning it. He literally cleaned up after us. How's that for irony? The next slide was even worse. It was security footage from the campus cafeteria, showing Marcus carefully counting coins to pay for a single apple and a piece of bread. This is just sad, someone whispered, though loud enough for everyone to hear. Mrs. Whitmore's voice cut through, this is why we need to be realistic about social mobility. Some people simply aren't equipped for certain levels of society. Bradley clicked again. This time it was the infamous fountain incident. The video showed Tyler, Connor, and Bradley throwing Marcus's backpack into the fountain. His books scattered, papers floating, while Marcus desperately tried to salvage his assignments. Classic! Tyler shouted. Those books were probably worth more than his whole wardrobe. The best part, Bradley narrated, was that he had a presentation the next day. He actually tried to dry the papers with a hairdryer in the bathroom. The presentation continued, each slide more humiliating than the last. Photos of Marcus eating alone. Screenshots of his LinkedIn with only 12 connections while everyone else had hundreds. A recording of him stumbling through a presentation after working 3 straight shifts. Then came what Bradley clearly considered the piece de resistance. Now, for my favorite moment. He clicked to a video from senior year. It showed Marcus at the career fair, approaching booth after booth, being rejected by every recruiter. The camera zoomed in on his face after each rejection, capturing his growing desperation. He applied to 43 companies, Bradley announced. 43 rejections. That's got to be a record. I heard he even applied to be a janitor at Microsoft. Connor added. They turned him down for that too. The room was howling now. Some people were actually crying from laughter. Madison's livestream comments were flying by so fast she couldn't read them. Marcus noticed Jerome had set down his serving tray, his hands clenched into fists. But wait, Bradley said, there's more. This is from last year, yes, we kept tabs on our favorite charity case. The screen showed a screenshot from a local Seattle newspaper's website. It was a small article about a tech startup laying off employees, with Marcus's name listed among those let go. Even startups wouldn't keep him. Ashley squealed. That's like being rejected by the desperate. Professor Blackwell took the microphone from Bradley. This is actually a valuable teaching moment. In my classes, I always emphasized knowing your limitations. Mr. Thompson here is a perfect example of what happens when someone refuses to accept their station in life. Ambition without ability leads to failure and humiliation. Thank you, Professor. Bradley reclaimed the mic, and now, for the grand finale. He clicked to the last slide. It was a bar graph comparing everyone's estimated net worth. Bradley's bar towered at the top, vastly inflated, followed by Connor, Ashley, and the others. At the very bottom, barely visible, was Marcus's bar. Based on our research, Bradley announced, Marcus Thompson's current net worth is approximately negative $12,000. Student loans, am I right? The laughter reached a crescendo. Someone actually started a slow clap. Madison was practically screaming into her phone about how this was the most savage thing ever witnessed. Marcus, Bradley turned to him, do you have anything to say? Any words of wisdom from your journey to nowhere? Marcus took the microphone, looking out at the crowd. Every face was turned toward him, eager to witness his complete humiliation. He saw tears of laughter, phones recording, people actually holding their stomachs from laughing so hard. Thank you for the presentation, Bradley, Marcus said calmly. It must have taken a lot of work to put together. 3 months? Bradley boasted. I wanted to make sure we captured every pathetic moment. Every moment, Marcus repeated. Interesting. You know what's funny about limiting your research to college and old newspapers? Bradley's smile flickered slightly. What? You missed the recent developments. Marcus pulled out his phone. Madison, you said you have 8,000 viewers on your live stream? Almost 10,000 now, she shouted. This is going viral. Good, Marcus said. Then they'll all want to see this. He held up his phone, showing a Business Insider article from that morning. The headline was partially visible, NextGen Technologies acquires Sterling Industries for $2.8 billion. Connor laughed. What, you're pretending you work for NextGen now? That's pathetic, even for you. Marcus smiled for the first time all evening. I don't work for NextGen, Connor. Obviously, Bradley scoffed. They would never hire. I own it. The laughter stopped like someone had hit a switch. The silence was so complete you could hear the air conditioning humming. What? Bradley's voice cracked. Marcus looked at his phone again. Oh, and Madison? Your livestream viewers might want to know that the FTC raid on FitT Extreme is happening. He checked his watch, right about now. You might want to distance yourself from that brand deal you just bragged about. Madison's face went white as her phone started buzzing with notifications. But please, Marcus set down the microphone and started walking off the stage, don't let me interrupt. You were saying something about knowing my place? As he descended the stairs, the ballroom remained frozen in stunned silence. 10,000 livestream viewers had just witnessed the beginning of the most spectacular reversal in reunion history. And Marcus Thompson was just getting started. The silence in the ballroom was shattered by the main doors bursting open. Victoria Chen strode in, her presence commanding immediate attention. She wasn't dressed for nostalgia, she wore a sharp business suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and her confidence filled the room like smoke. Sorry I'm late, she announced, though her tone suggested she wasn't sorry at all. The acquisition paperwork took longer than expected. She walked directly to Marcus, who had stopped midway to his table. The Sterling Industries deal closed an hour ago. Reuters wants a statement. Richard Sterling, Connor's father, stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. What are you talking about? What acquisition? Victoria turned to him with professional calm. Mr. Sterling, I'm Victoria Chen, Chief Operating Officer of NextGen Technologies. We've been in negotiations with your board for the past 6 weeks. The unanimous vote came through at 4 p.m. today. That's impossible. Richard's face was turning purple. I'm the CEO. No one negotiated with. The board lost confidence after the Singapore expansion failed, Victoria interrupted. They reached out to us directly. Didn't they inform you? The emergency board meeting was 3 days ago. Connor stumbled forward, grabbing his father's arm. Dad, what is she talking about? You said we were expanding globally. Richard Sterling pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking as he scrolled through emails. His face went from purple to white as he read. They went behind my back. They sold my company? To be precise, Marcus said quietly, they sold it to me. Every head in the room swiveled toward Marcus. Bradley's mouth was opening and closing like a fish out of water. That's not possible, Professor Blackwell sputtered. You're Marcus Thompson. You got a C- in my class. You couldn't even understand basic market dynamics. The same market dynamics that said cloud computing was oversaturated? Marcus asked. The presentation you failed was the business plan for NextGen. That C- proposal is now worth approximately $100 million. No, Bradley finally found his voice. No, this is some kind of joke. Tyler, did you set this up? Is this a prank? Tyler was backing away from the stage, his face pale. Dude, this isn't. Victoria pulled out her tablet, projecting from it to the main screen where the humiliating slideshow had just been. The NextGen Technologies logo appeared, followed by a Forbes article, Marcus Thompson, the 27-year-old tech mogul who built an empire from nothing. That article came out this morning, Victoria said. Marcus didn't want any press before the Sterling acquisition was complete, but now. She clicked to the next slide showing Marcus on the cover of TechCrunch, then another showing him ringing the opening bell at NASDAQ. Madison's phone was going crazy. She looked at her livestream comments in horror. My viewers, they're saying I'm bullying a billionaire? That can't be right. Not a billionaire, Marcus corrected. Just 9 figures. Let's be accurate. Mrs. Whitmore stood up, her diamonds catching the light as she trembled. This is preposterous. You were a janitor. You cleaned these floors. I did, Marcus agreed. Every night for 3 years. $7.25 an hour. That job taught me more about hard work than any trust fund ever could. Richard Sterling had collapsed into his chair, still staring at his phone. The board sold to him for $2.8 billion. My life's work. Your life's work was hemorrhaging money, Victoria said matter-of-factly. The Shanghai office was a disaster. The Mumbai expansion never materialized. You were 3 months from bankruptcy. Marcus offered you a lifeline. Connor turned on his father. You said we were thriving. You said I'd inherit an empire. You will inherit something, Marcus interjected. I'm keeping the Sterling name and most of the employees. Your father will receive his contracted severance. It's quite generous, I made sure of that. Why? Richard looked up, confused. Why would you do that? Because I'm not cruel, Marcus replied, looking directly at Bradley. I don't take pleasure in destroying people. Unlike some. Professor Blackwell had pulled out his phone, frantically Googling. His face went white as he read. You donated $10 million to Eastwood University last month. The anonymous donor for the new business school, that was you? The Thompson Center for Innovation, Marcus confirmed. They asked me to name it. I thought about calling it the C- building but decided against it. Ashley grabbed Bradley's arm. This can't be real. Tell them it's not real. Bradley was staring at the screen, which now showed Marcus's actual net worth, not the insulting graph he'd made, but the real numbers from public filings. $100 million? $103 million at market close today, Victoria corrected. Though with the Sterling acquisition, it'll be higher tomorrow. The ballroom had erupted into chaos. People were pulling out phones, Googling frantically, showing each other articles. Madison's livestream had exploded to 50,000 viewers, all witnessing the spectacular reversal. The thing about limiting your research to old newspapers and college memories, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the noise, is that you miss the important stuff. Like how I took that failed cloud computing idea and pitched it to the right investors. Or how I spent those years you were partying building something real. Tyler stumbled forward, his flask forgotten. But we threw your books in the fountain. You did, Marcus agreed. And I dried them out, studied harder, and used that anger as fuel. Every insult, every humiliation, every moment you tried to break me, I converted it into code, into deals, into success. Jerome, the server who'd been watching from the side, suddenly started clapping. Slowly, deliberately. Other servers joined him. Then some of the quieter classmates who'd been sitting at the lesser tables. The applause spread, but it wasn't for Bradley's presentation anymore. Stop! Bradley shouted. Stop clapping. This isn't how it's supposed to go. How was it supposed to go, Bradley? Marcus asked. Was I supposed to cry? Run away? Confirm every terrible thing you believed about me? Victoria pulled up another screen. Oh, Bradley, while we're sharing news, you should know that the Whitmore Grand Hotel chain was part of a package deal we completed yesterday. Marcus now owns the building we're standing in. Mrs. Whitmore gasped. That's impossible. My husband would never sell. Your husband didn't, Victoria replied. The investment group that holds the majority stake did. They were concerned about the debt load. Something about Bradley's hedge fund losses requiring too many family bailouts? Bradley's face went from red to white to green. You don't know anything about my fund. Whitmore Capital, founded 2 years ago, initial investment of $10 million from family trusts, Marcus recited from memory. Current assets under management, $1.2 million, down from the initial 10. 3 clients remaining, 2 of whom are family friends who haven't realized their money is gone yet. You're 4 months behind on your office rent, which, coincidentally, is also owned by NextGen as of yesterday. The room was spinning around Bradley. His perfect evening, his carefully planned humiliation of Marcus, had become his own public destruction. Connor was backing away from everyone, his phone pressed to his ear. Dad's not answering. Dad's not, what did you do? I bought a failing company and saved 3,000 jobs, Marcus said simply. Your father gets a golden parachute. The employees keep their health insurance. And Sterling Industries might actually turn a profit next quarter. Everyone wins. Everyone except us. Ashley shrieked. You destroyed us. Marcus looked at her calmly. No, Ashley. You destroyed yourselves. I just bought the wreckage. Madison's phone suddenly started pinging with notifications. She looked at it in horror. The FTC, they're freezing Fitty's assets. My sponsorship deal, my money. Probably should have researched that company better, Victoria observed. Due diligence matters. The ballroom was in complete chaos now. Half the room was trying to congratulate Marcus, the other half trying to process what had happened. Professor Blackwell was slumped in his chair, staring at nothing. The Sterlings had fled. Madison was crying about her frozen assets. And in the center of it all, Bradley Whitmore III stood on his own stage, under his own spotlight, with his own presentation still frozen on the screen behind him, except now it showed not Marcus's failures, but his Forbes cover. This isn't over, Bradley said weakly. Marcus walked back toward the stage, stopping at the bottom of the stairs. Actually, Bradley, it's just beginning. We haven't even gotten to the best part yet. What best part? Bradley's voice cracked. Marcus smiled. The part where you ask me for a job. The ballroom screen flickered as Victoria connected her laptop, replacing the Forbes article with a live feed from CNBC. The breaking news banner read, NextGen Technologies CEO Marcus Thompson reveals identity after sterling acquisition. Turn it off. Bradley shouted, but Victoria had already locked the system. The news anchor's voice filled the room. In a shocking revelation, the mysterious founder of NextGen Technologies has been identified as 27-year-old Marcus Thompson, who built the company from his college dorm room while working 3 jobs to pay tuition. Marcus walked slowly back toward the stage, every eye following him. You spent 3 months researching my failures, Bradley. But you never thought to search for my successes. Professor Blackwell stood up shakily, pointing an accusatory finger. This is impossible. I have your transcript. You were a C student. You couldn't even grasp basic economic principles. I understood them fine, Marcus replied calmly. I just disagreed with them. You taught that markets were efficient, that disruption was impossible without inherited capital. You said someone like me could never compete with established players. He pulled out his phone, projecting an email onto the screen. This is from the Dean of Eastwood Business School, thanking me for the largest individual donation in the school's history. $10 million, specifically earmarked for first-generation college students. Students like I was. The Thompson Center for Innovation, the dean's email read, will ensure that no student has to work 3 jobs to afford their education, and that innovative ideas are judged on merit, not the designer labels their presenters wear. Blackwell sank back into his chair. But your proposal was naive. Unrealistic. My proposal became NextGen's founding document, Marcus said. Every unrealistic projection I made, we exceeded within 18 months. That cloud infrastructure you said Amazon would never let succeed? We're their biggest enterprise partner now. Madison was frantically deleting her livestream, but her viewers had already screen-recorded everything. The comments were brutal, billionaire bully gets destroyed, and she mocked a CEO on live scrolled past. Please, she begged Marcus, can you make them stop? My brand is ruined. Your brand was built on cruelty, Victoria observed. You have 50,000 witnesses to that. Tyler stumbled forward, clearly drunk and desperate. Marcus's buddy, remember when we were lab partners sophomore year? I helped you with that chemistry project. You mean when you showed up drunk and I did the entire project alone? Marcus asked. Then took credit when it got an A? Connor had returned, his face ashen. My father, he's had a heart episode. The stress of losing the company. Marcus's expression softened slightly. There's an ambulance already en route. I had medical staff on standby. I knew this would be shocking for him. He'll be taken to Seattle Presbyterian. They have the best cardiac unit in the state. You planned for that? I planned for everything, Marcus said. Unlike your presentation, Bradley, which apparently didn't plan for the possibility that I might have succeeded. Bradley was gripping the podium like it was the only thing keeping him upright. You're lying. This is all fake. Hired actors. Deep fakes. Something. Victoria pulled up SEC filings, state business registrations, patent documents. 73 patents in distributed computing. Board positions at 12 companies. Featured speaker at TechCrunch Disrupt. Would you like to see the video of him presenting to 5,000 people last month? The same week you were planning this reunion, Marcus added. While you were photoshopping dunce caps onto my picture, I was closing a deal with Microsoft. Mrs. Whitmore had been silent, but now she stood, trying to salvage some dignity. Well, money doesn't equal class. You still don't belong in our circles. Your circles? Marcus laughed, the first time he'd shown any emotion all evening. Mrs. Whitmore, I donated more to charity last month than your husband made last year. I employ 1,200 people, most of them from backgrounds like mine. I've created more wealth in 5 years than your family has in 3 generations. He looked around the room, addressing everyone now. But you're right about one thing, I don't belong in your circles. Your circles are small, petty, and shrinking. They're about keeping people out instead of lifting them up. Ashley was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Bradley, do something. What would you like him to do? Marcus asked. Show more slideshows? Make more graphs? Speaking of which. He gestured to Victoria, who pulled up a new chart. This is real net worth data, pulled from public records and financial disclosures, Victoria explained. Bradley Whitmore, negative $2.3 million, primarily due to Whitmore Capital's losses. Connor Sterling, zero, as his trust fund was tied to Sterling Industries stock, now worthless. Ashley Pemberton, $45,000 in credit card debt. Stop! Bradley screamed. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything, Marcus said. I'm just presenting facts. Isn't that what you were doing? Showing everyone the truth about me? The screen changed again, showing a building. This is NextGen's new Seattle headquarters, opening next month. 47 floors of prime real estate. The top floor is my office, the one with the view you thought I'd never have. Jerome, the server, had moved closer to the stage. Mr. Thompson, I don't know if you remember me. Marcus turned to him, smiling genuinely. Jerome Williams. Statistics class, 2018. You had to drop out second semester. Jerome's eyes widened. You remember? I remember everyone who was kind to me. You shared your notes when I missed class for work. You're also the only person who didn't laugh when they threw my books in the fountain. I work catering now, but I've been taking online courses. Victoria, make a note. Mr. Williams gets an interview at NextGen next week. We need good people in our analytics department. The room gasped. Bradley's face turned purple. You can't just hire him because he was nice to you. Actually, I can, Marcus said. It's my company. But for the record, Jerome has been completing his degree online while working full-time. His transcript is impressive. Unlike some people, he didn't have a trust fund to fall back on. More murmurs rippled through the crowd. Other former classmates who'd been kind to Marcus or simply ignored were starting to approach, hoping for similar opportunities. This is corruption. Professor Blackwell shouted. Using your wealth to punish those who wronged you. Punishment? Marcus turned to him. Professor, I haven't punished anyone. I bought failing companies at fair market value. I'm offering jobs to qualified candidates. I donated money to help students. Where's the punishment? You're destroying our lives. No, Marcus said firmly. You destroyed your own lives with arrogance, cruelty, and bad business decisions. I'm just no longer available to be your punching bag. The screen changed one more time, showing an email. Oh, Bradley, Marcus said, you should check your inbox. Bradley pulled out his phone with shaking hands. His face went white as he read. What is it? Ashley demanded. An eviction notice, Bradley whispered. For the office. And my apartment. Both owned by NextGen Properties, Marcus confirmed. Don't worry, you have 30 days to vacate. I'm not heartless. The ballroom had become utterly silent except for the sound of notifications pinging on phones as the news spread across social media. Hashtag Marcus Thompson wins was trending nationally. Madison's influencer career was imploding in real time. Bradley's fund investors were calling, demanding answers. You know what the ironic part is? Marcus said, addressing the room one final time. If you had just been kind or even just indifferent, none of this would have happened. I would have come to the reunion, had a quiet drink, and left. But you had to plan this elaborate humiliation. You had to make sure I knew my place. He looked directly at Bradley. Well, now you know mine. The ballroom had descended into chaos, but Bradley Whitmore III wasn't finished. Desperation had replaced his smugness as he grabbed the microphone with trembling hands. Wait. Marcus, wait. Bradley's voice cracked as he called out. We can work something out. Business to business. CEO to CEO. Marcus paused at the bottom of the stage, turning back with raised eyebrows. CEO to CEO? Bradley, you're not a CEO anymore. Your fun died the moment this livestream went viral. As if on cue, Bradley's phone exploded with notifications. He glanced at it and went pale. My investors, they're all pulling out. All three of them, Victoria added helpfully. Though two were your family friends, so really just one actual investor. Ashley rushed to Bradley's side, her entire demeanor transformed. Gone was the sneering mean girl, she now looked at Marcus with desperate friendliness. Marcus. Hi. You know, I always thought you were misunderstood in college. I told Bradley we shouldn't. You told me to make the slideshow more humiliating, Bradley said, staring at her in disbelief. You literally picked out the worst photos. That was just jokes. Ashley's voice went up an octave as she abandoned Bradley and approached Marcus. We were kids. You understand that, right? Kids make mistakes. And honestly, I always admired your work ethic. 3 jobs? That's so impressive. The same work ethic you called pathetic desperation 15 minutes ago? Marcus asked. Tyler pushed forward, nearly tripping over his own feet. Marcus, my man. Listen, I've got some great ideas for apps. Revolutionary stuff. With your technical expertise and my creativity. Your creativity? Marcus interrupted. You mean like when you creatively edited that video of me to make it look like I was crying after the fountain incident? That was just editing practice. Film school stuff. Tyler pulled out his phone. Look, I can delete all those videos right now. See? Deleting them. They're gone. We're cool now, right? They're already preserved on thousands of devices thanks to Madison's livestream, Victoria pointed out. Madison herself was having a breakdown, mascara streaming down her face as she watched her follower count plummet in real time. 30,000 unfollows. 30,000. Marcus, please, you have to help me. Post something saying we're friends. One photo together could save my career. A career built on mocking people? Marcus asked. No. Mrs. Whitmore approached next, her entire demeanor changed. Where before she'd been imperious and dismissive, she now attempted warmth. Mr. Thompson, Marcus, I feel there's been a terrible misunderstanding. The Whitmore family has always supported diversity and inclusion. In fact, I chair several charitable organizations that help underprivileged youth. The same charities that rejected my scholarship applications? Marcus asked. The ones where you personally wrote that I lacked the refinement necessary for advancement? She flushed but pressed on. Perhaps you'd consider attending our annual gala? As a guest of honor, of course. Your presence would mean so much to the cause. The gala with a $50,000 table minimum? The one specifically designed to keep out people like me? Connor, who'd been silent since returning, suddenly lunged forward. You said my father would be okay. You said there was an ambulance. There is, Marcus confirmed. He's already at the hospital. Stable condition. Stress-induced arrhythmia, non-fatal. Then maybe we can work something out? You bought his company, but you need someone who knows the operation. I've been there 2 years, doing what, exactly? Victoria asked. According to our due diligence, you show up twice a week, take 3-hour lunches, and your father gave you the title Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, which seems to mean Connor needed a job. I have relationships with clients. You mean the golf buddies who were also bleeding the company dry? Marcus shook his head. We've already replaced the entire executive team with people who actually know how to run a business. The desperation in the room was palpable. Former classmates who'd been laughing moments ago were now trying to catch Marcus's eye, hoping for acknowledgement, for forgiveness, for opportunity. Professor Blackwell approached last, his academic arrogance replaced with something resembling humility. Mr. Thompson, Marcus, I've been thinking about your proposal from senior year. Perhaps I was too hasty in my assessment. You gave me a C- and told the class it was an example of wishful thinking from someone who doesn't understand their limitations. Academic discourse can be rigorous, Blackwell stammered. But clearly, you've proven that innovation can come from unexpected places. Perhaps you'd consider being a guest lecturer? Share your insights with current students? The students you're still telling to know their place? Marcus asked. No. But don't worry, Professor. When the Thompson Center for Innovation opens, we'll have actual entrepreneurs teaching people who've built things, not just theorized about them. Bradley made one last desperate attempt. Marcus, please. We were friends once. When? Marcus's voice was sharp. When were we friends, Bradley? When you paid me $5 to write your economics paper? When you invited me to your party just to have me serve drinks? When you had security escort me out of your father's hotel because I didn't look like I belonged? That was. Or maybe we were friends when you spent 3 months planning tonight? When you contacted everyone from our class except to mock me? When you created a literal slideshow of my lowest moments? Bradley's phone rang. He looked at it with dread. It's my father. You should take that, Marcus suggested. He's probably calling about the hotel sale. And the apartment. And the office. And the fact that his son just humiliated himself in front of 10,000 witnesses. Bradley answered with shaking hands, walking away from the microphone but still audible in the silent room. Dad? I can explain. No, it's not what it looks like. What do you mean you're cutting me off? Dad? Dad? The call ended. Bradley stood there, phone in hand, looking lost. Ashley immediately stepped away from him. Bradley, I think we should talk about our relationship. Now you want to break up? Bradley's voice was hollow. Now that I'm broke? I just think we've grown apart, Ashley said, already eyeing Marcus. We want different things. Tyler tried one more time. Marcus, buddy, what do I have to do? I'll apologize publicly. I'll make a video admitting everything. Just give me a chance. Marcus looked at him steadily. You want a chance? Fine. NextGen has an entry-level customer service position open. Starts at $15 an hour. You'd be answering phones, helping people with basic tech issues. Interested? Tyler's face went through several expressions. Customer service? But I have a degree. From Eastwood. So do the other 50 applicants for that position. But I'll make sure your resume gets reviewed fairly. That's more of a chance than you ever gave me. Madison had collapsed into a chair, staring at her phone. It's over. My career is over. FitT is suing me for breach of contract because of the bad publicity. My sponsors are pulling out. I'm finished. You're 27, Marcus said, not unkindly. You can start over. Maybe try building something real this time, instead of just tearing others down for content. Mrs. Whitmore made one last attempt. Surely, Marcus, you understand the importance of forgiveness? Of moving forward? I do, Marcus agreed. I forgave all of you years ago. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean giving you access to my life or my success. The room fell silent except for the sound of phones buzzing with notifications. The reunion had become a massacre, and everyone knew it. Bradley stood alone on the stage he'd commanded so confidently an hour ago. His friends had abandoned him, his fortune was gone, his future destroyed. What am I supposed to do now? Marcus looked up at him. The same thing I did when I had nothing. Work. Build. Earn your way up. Or don't, that's your choice. But you'll do it without a trust fund, without connections, without a safety net. You'll do it the way you always said was so easy, with just hard work and determination. You're enjoying this, Bradley accused. You're enjoying watching us suffer. No, Marcus said simply. I'm not enjoying it. But I'm not stopping it either. You created this situation. You sent the invitation. You made the slideshow. You started the live stream. All I did was show up and tell the truth. He turned to address the room one final time. 5 years ago, you all thought you knew how the world worked. Who belonged at the top, who belonged at the bottom. Tonight, you learned that the world doesn't care about your assumptions. The grand entrance doors of the ballroom opened once more, and James Thompson walked in, carrying himself with the quiet dignity he'd maintained through 30 years of janitorial work at Eastwood University. But something was different. He wore an elegant suit, and the keys in his hand jingled with the distinctive sound of luxury car fobs. Dad? Marcus moved quickly toward his father. What are you doing here? Got your message to come by, James said, looking around the chaotic ballroom with confusion. Said you had something to tell me about the reunion. Drove here in that new Tesla you bought me, still can't believe that thing parks itself. The room collectively held its breath. Marcus had been so careful to hide his wealth from his father, but now. Bradley laughed bitterly from the stage. He doesn't know? Your own father doesn't know you're worth $100 million? James Thompson looked between his son and the scattered, distressed crowd. What's he talking about, son? Marcus took a deep breath. Dad, there's something I need to tell you. The software company I said I worked for, NextGen Technologies, Victoria stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, your son doesn't work for the company. He founded it. He owns it. He's the CEO. James stared at his son. That's what? The Tesla isn't just a gift, Dad. Neither is the house I bought you last year that I said was a company benefit. Or the medical care for Mom that I said insurance covered. I paid for all of it. But you said you were doing okay. Just okay. Middle management, you said. I lied, Marcus admitted. I knew if you found out how much money I had, you'd refuse everything. You'd say you didn't work 3 jobs to raise a son who throws money around. James Thompson stood very still, processing this information. Then he noticed the screen behind Bradley, still showing the Forbes article. His son's face on a magazine cover. His son's name next to a number that couldn't be real. $100 million? James's voice was barely a whisper. 103 million, Marcus corrected. As of today. Richard Sterling, Connor's father, chose that moment to be wheeled back into the ballroom in a wheelchair, an EMT beside him. He was pale but alert, and his eyes fixed on Marcus with a mixture of anger and desperation. Thompson, he wheezed. We need to talk about the acquisition. There's nothing to discuss, Marcus said calmly. The board voted. The contracts are signed. You targeted my company because of him. Richard pointed at Connor. Because of what he did to you in college. I targeted your company because it was failing and I could turn it around, Marcus replied. The fact that Connor is your son is just poetic justice. James Thompson had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Connor Sterling? The boy who threw your books in the fountain? Everyone turned to stare. James Thompson, the quiet janitor, knew about that? You think I didn't know? James looked at his son with sad eyes. I worked at that university for 30 years. I saw everything. I mopped up the water from that fountain. I found your papers scattered in the bathroom where you tried to dry them. He turned to face the crowd, these privileged children who'd tormented his son. I watched you all. Every cruel word, every prank, every moment you tried to break him. I'd come home and find him crying, but he'd never tell me why. Said everything was fine. Dad, I cleaned up after your parties, James continued, looking at Bradley. Retry found the champagne bottles you threw at Marcus's dorm window. Saw the loser lives here sign you taped to his door. You think janitors are invisible, but we see everything. Bradley couldn't meet his eyes. Ashley looked away. The entire room seemed to shrink under the weight of James Thompson's quiet dignity. I wanted to say something, James continued. Every time. But Marcus begged me not to. Said it would make things worse. Said he could handle it. He looked at his son with pride. And he did. Richard Sterling struggled to sit up straighter in his wheelchair. This is all very touching, but the fact remains that your son destroyed my company. Your company was already destroyed, Victoria interrupted, pulling up financial records on the screen. 3/4 of losses. SEC investigation pending. Lawsuits from shareholders. Marcus saved you from bankruptcy and possible prison. Prison? Connor stepped forward. What are you talking about? Your father was cooking the books, Marcus said simply. Moving money between accounts to hide losses. The board knew it, which is why they came to me. I could have exposed it all, sent him to federal prison. Instead, I gave him a golden parachute and a chance to retire quietly. Richard's face went gray. You knew? I know everything, Marcus said. That's what due diligence means. I know about Bradley's Ponzi scheme with his hedge fund. I know about Mrs. Whitmore's embezzlement from her charities. I know about Professor Blackwell's plagiarized research papers. The room exploded. Accusations, denials, phones ringing as lawyers were called. But James Thompson wasn't finished. You all thought you were better than him because of your money, James said, his voice cutting through the chaos. But while you were playing at success, my son was building it. Every night he couldn't go to your parties, he was coding. Every weekend you spent at country clubs, he was in startup meetings. Every moment you spent mocking him, he was becoming someone you could never be. He walked over to Marcus, putting a hand on his shoulder. I worked 3 jobs to put him through school. Cleaned your toilets, mopped your floors, emptied your trash. And I'd do it again, because look what he became. Not despite your cruelty, but because of it. You made him stronger. Tyler, who had been recording everything on his phone, suddenly spoke up. This is insane. Marcus, I'll delete everything. All the videos, all the posts, everything from college. Just please. It's too late for that, Madison said hollowly, showing her phone. We're trending worldwide. Hashtag Marcus Thompson Revenge has 50 million views. Every major news outlet has picked it up. Professor Blackwell stood up shakily. The plagiarism accusation you can't prove. I don't have to, Marcus said. But the university might be interested in why your 2018 paper on market dynamics is word for word identical to a 1987 paper from a Japanese journal. Google Translate made it easy to check. Blackwell sat down hard, his academic career flashing before his eyes. Bradley's phone rang again. This time, he put it on speaker without meaning to, his hands shaking too much to hold it properly. Bradley Whitmore, this is Agent Johnson from the SEC. We need to discuss your hedge fund's activities. Do not leave the country. Do not destroy any documents. We'll be at your office in the morning. The call ended. Bradley looked at Marcus in horror. You reported me? I didn't have to. Your live-streamed confession of running a Ponzi scheme did that. Madison has 10,000 witnesses. Mrs. Whitmore tried to maintain her composure. These accusations about the charity are documented, Victoria said, pulling up records. You've been skimming from the Whitmore Foundation for years. 20% of donations never made it to the intended recipients. They went to your personal accounts. Mom? Bradley stared at his mother in shock. The charity? You were stealing from the charity? James Thompson shook his head. And you all thought you were better than us. Connor had slumped against a wall. We're ruined. All of us. Not ruined, Marcus corrected. Just revealed. There's a difference. What do you want from us? Richard Sterling asked desperately. What will it take to make this stop? Nothing, Marcus said simply. I don't want anything from any of you. I never did. I just wanted to be left alone to build my dreams. But you couldn't even give me that. He looked around the room at the wreckage of privilege and arrogance. You know what the saddest part is? If you'd spent half the energy building something real that you spent tearing me down, you might have actually succeeded at something. Jerome and the other service staff had stopped all pretense of working, openly watching the spectacle. Some were recording, others just staring in amazement. Mr. Thompson, Jerome said to James, your son changed my life tonight. Offered me a real job, a real chance. James smiled proudly. That's who he is. That's who he's always been. Dad, Marcus said quietly, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. About the money, the company, everything. Why didn't you? Marcus looked at his father, this man who'd worked himself to the bone to give his son a chance. Because you taught me that money doesn't make the man. Character does. I was afraid that if you knew about the wealth, you'd think I'd changed, become like them. James pulled his son into a hug, right there in front of everyone. Son, you could have all the money in the world or none at all, and you'd still be the same Marcus who shared his lunch with classmates who forgot theirs, who tutored kids for free, who never let cruelty make him cruel. When they pulled apart, James turned to face the room one more time. You all need to understand something. You didn't lose to Marcus tonight. You lost to yourselves. Your greed, your cruelty, your arrogance, that's what destroyed you. Bradley had collapsed into a chair, his phone buzzing continuously with calls from investigators, investors, and reporters. It's over. Everything's over. No, Marcus said, and there was something almost kind in his voice. It's just beginning. You get to start over, Bradley. From nothing. Like I did. The difference is, you'll know what it's like to fall. Maybe that'll make you better. Or maybe it'll destroy me. That's up to you, Marcus said. But here's the thing, I'm not going to kick you while you're down. The eviction notices stand, the acquisitions are complete, but I'm not going to pursue anything further. No lawsuits, no public statements, nothing. You'll face the consequences of your own actions, but not my vengeance. Why? Ashley asked, tears streaming down her face. Why show mercy now? Because, Marcus said, looking at his father, I was raised better than that. Victoria checked her phone. Marcus, the Reuters interview is in an hour. We should go. Marcus nodded, then addressed the room one final time. 5 years from now, there'll be another reunion. Maybe by then, some of you will have learned what real success looks like. It's not about money or power or connections. It's about building something meaningful, helping others rise, and never forgetting where you came from. He turned to his father. Come on, Dad. Let me show you the real next-gen office. Your son's actual office. As they walked toward the exit, James Thompson said loudly enough for everyone to hear, I knew you were special, son. Even when you were mopping floors beside me during high school summers. I knew you'd be something extraordinary. I learned from the best, Marcus replied. You taught me that honest work is never shameful, that dignity can't be bought or sold, and that the measure of a man isn't what he has, but what he does with it. They reached the door, where Victoria was waiting. Marcus turned back one last time to see the wreckage of the reunion, Bradley surrounded by lawyers calling him, Ashley desperately trying to salvage her image, Connor dealing with his father's collapse, Madison watching her career implode in real time, and Professor Blackwell probably seeing his tenure disappear. You know what? Marcus said to the room. The invitation said this reunion was about celebrating success. Turns out, it really was. Just not the success you were expecting. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of NextGen Technologies headquarters, 47 floors above the Seattle streets where Marcus Thompson once walked to his 3 jobs. The contrast wasn't lost on him as he stood before a podium, facing a room full of reporters, employees, and surprisingly, several faces from last night's reunion. Victoria stood beside him, tablet in hand, managing the flood of media requests that had been pouring in since Madison's livestream went viral. Behind them, a banner announced, "The Thompson Foundation, investing in tomorrow's innovators." "Thank you all for coming," Marcus began, his voice calm and steady. "Last night's events have generated a lot of attention, but I want to focus on something more important than personal drama. Today, I'm announcing the launch of the Thompson Foundation, with an initial endowment of $15 million. Gasps rippled through the crowd. In the back, Marcus spotted Bradley Whitmore III, wearing the same wrinkled suit from last night, his face haggard. Ashley stood apart from him, trying to remain inconspicuous. Tyler was there too, holding a coffee cup that Marcus recognized as the NextGen employee breakroom variety. He'd shown up for that entry-level interview after all. The foundation will provide full scholarships to first-generation college students, Marcus continued. But more than that, it will offer mentorship, internships, and a support network, all the things I didn't have but desperately needed. A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Thompson, is this in response to last night's viral incident?" "No," Marcus replied. "This has been in development for months. Last night simply reminded me why it's necessary. Too many talented people are held back not by lack of ability, but by lack of opportunity." He clicked to the next slide, showing a familiar building. The foundation's first initiative is purchasing and renovating Eastwood University's old Hamilton Hall, the building where I worked as a janitor. It will become the Thompson Center for Innovation, where students can develop their ideas regardless of their economic background. Professor Blackwell was in the audience, his presence surprising until Marcus realized why he'd come. The plagiarism accusations had already reached the university board. Additionally, Marcus continued, "We're establishing the Second Chances program. This will provide grants and mentorship to people who failed, whether in business, education, or life, and want to try again. Because failure isn't the end unless you let it be." Connor Sterling raised his hand from the middle of the crowd. "Are you accepting applications for this program?" Marcus looked at him steadily. "From everyone, Mr. Sterling. Even those who once thought they were above needing help." Victoria stepped forward. "We're also announcing NextGen's new hiring initiative. We're removing degree requirements for 60% of our positions. Skills and potential matter more than pedigree." Jerome Williams stood near the front, wearing a new suit and a NextGen employee badge. He'd passed his interview that morning. "Mr. Thompson," another reporter called out, "Madison Blake's livestream has been viewed over 100 million times. What's your response to those calling you ruthless for destroying your former classmates?" Marcus considered the question. "I didn't destroy anyone. I revealed the truth. If the truth destroys you, that's not ruthlessness, that's justice. But justice without mercy is just vengeance, which is why I'm not pursuing any legal action against anyone from last night, despite having grounds to do so." Bradley suddenly stood up, his voice cracking. Can I say something?" Security moved toward him, but Marcus held up a hand. "Let him speak." Bradley walked to the front, each step seeming to age him. When he reached the microphone, he looked nothing like the golden boy who'd orchestrated last night's humiliation. I wanted to apologize. Publicly. What I did, was cruel and wrong. Not just last night, but for years." He looked directly at Marcus. "You offered me a job. Entry-level customer service. I'm here to accept it, if it's still available." The room went silent. Marcus studied his former tormentor, now broken and humbled. "The position starts at $15 an hour. You'll be answering phones, helping customers with basic issues. You'll be managed by people younger than you, some without degrees. Can you handle that? I'll have to, Bradley said quietly. I don't have any other options. Then report to HR after this conference. You start Monday. Ashley stood up next, desperate. What about me? I can work too. I can learn. The offer extends to anyone willing to actually work, Marcus said. But understand, you'll earn your way up based on merit, not connections. Your last names mean nothing at NextGen. Madison approached next, her influencer persona completely shattered. My career is over. The FTC is investigating me. All my sponsors dropped me. I have nothing. You have skills, Marcus pointed out. You understand social media, video production, audience engagement. Those are valuable when used ethically. Our marketing department has an opening for a content creator. Entry level, focusing on highlighting our scholarship recipients' stories. You'd trust me with that? I'd give you a chance to earn trust, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. James Thompson had been sitting in the front row, and now he stood. Can I say something, son? Marcus smiled. Of course, Dad. James took the microphone, looking out at the crowd, reporters, tech workers, and the remnants of Eastwood's privileged class. My son asked me this morning if I was proud of what happened last night. If I was happy to see those kids brought low. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I told him I wasn't happy or sad about it. Those young people made choices, and choices have consequences. But what makes me proud is that my son, who had every reason to be cruel, chose to be kind. He's offering jobs to people who tormented him. He's creating opportunities for strangers. That's not revenge, that's grace. The room erupted in applause. Even Bradley clapped, tears streaming down his face. Marcus returned to the microphone. Before we close, I want to address something. The viral video has made me into some kind of hero for the underdog. But I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who refused to let others define his worth. Every person in this room has that same power. He looked directly at the camera broadcasting the conference live. To everyone watching who's ever been told they don't belong, that they're not enough, that they should know their place, don't believe it. Your place is wherever you have the courage to stand. Victoria announced the last part of the program. The Thompson Foundation website goes live today. Applications for scholarships, grants, and second chance funding are now open. We're particularly interested in applicants who've been told their ideas are unrealistic or too ambitious. As the conference wound down, people began approaching Marcus. Some were reporters wanting exclusive interviews, others were potential partners interested in the foundation. But the most surprising approach came from Professor Blackwell. Mr. Thompson, Blackwell said quietly, I've been forced to resign from Eastwood, effective immediately. The plagiarism allegations, they're true. I've lost everything, my tenure, my reputation, my pension. Marcus waited. I'm 65 years old, Blackwell continued. No university will hire me. I have no savings, I spent it all maintaining an image. I need a job. Any job. Can you teach? Marcus asked. It's all I know. The Thompson Foundation will need instructors for our entrepreneurship program. People who understand both success and failure. The pay won't be what you're used to. I'll take it, Blackwell said immediately. I'll take anything. Then report to the foundation offices tomorrow. But Professor, you'll be teaching students like I was. First generation, working class, diverse. Can you handle that? Blackwell's shoulders slumped. I'll have to learn. It seems I have a lot to learn. As the crowd dispersed, Marcus found himself standing with Victoria and his father, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The livestream is at 200 million views, Victoria reported. You're the top trending topic worldwide. It'll pass, Marcus said. Tomorrow there'll be something new for people to watch. But the impact won't pass, James said. Those kids you're helping with scholarships, the people getting second chances, the employees you're hiring based on skill instead of degrees, that impact lasts forever. Bradley approached one last time before leaving for HR. Marcus, why are you doing this? Why help us after everything? Marcus thought for a moment. Because success isn't just about rising. It's about lifting others as you climb. Even the ones who tried to pull you down. That's the difference between us, Bradley. You thought success meant standing on others' shoulders. I learned it means offering your shoulders for others to stand on. As Bradley walked away to begin his new life at the bottom of the ladder he'd once thought he owned, Marcus's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Thank you for last night. I was working catering and saw everything. You gave me hope that people like us can make it. I'm applying for the scholarship program. Maybe someday I'll build something that matters too. Marcus smiled, showing the message to his father. This, he said, this is why we do it. The reunion that had been planned to humiliate him had instead become a masterclass in true success. Not the success of bank accounts and trust funds, but the success of character, perseverance, and grace. As the sun set over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of gold, Marcus Thompson stood in his office not as a victim who'd gotten revenge, but as a man who'd turned his pain into purpose, his humiliation into motivation, and his success into a ladder for others to climb. The livestream might have shown the world a billionaire's revenge, but what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was the real story: $100 million invested in strangers' dreams, jobs offered to former tormentors, and proof that success isn't about where you start, it's about how you choose to finish. And Marcus Thompson was just getting started.